Welcome back to Some Guys Podcast. I am your host, some guy named Guy. Um, I want to start today's episode off first with a thank you to you, the one that's listening right now. Um, I started this podcast because I just love to talk. And anyone that knows me, if you were to ask them what's Guy's number one characteristic, they'll say, dude, that guy talks a lot. So I figure a podcast is only natural for someone like me to start up. It's still growing. I'm still experimenting. But I'm not in it for the fame to make money or anything like that. I really just started it because I love to talk, you know. But if I'm going to be rambling on for several minutes, a half hour, several times a day, it would be nice to know that somebody is out there listening and tuning in. So if that's you, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you could take the time to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell, it would really mean a lot to me too because it would let me know that somebody is listening. Today's episode is a special episode. It's a request episode. Before I go any further, I want to do a disclaimer of sorts. I am not a financial advisor. This episode is for educational purposes only, and before you make any significant investment, always consult a financial advisor or someone that is qualified first. That being said, I was going around town today and I stopped by my local Extra Mart. I usually stop by there every night to say hello to people that work there and the girls at Dunkin' Donuts, Chris in the morning. No, I'm not calling you a girl, Chris. But yeah, I get along with everyone there. And one of the people that I'm friends with at the Extra Mart, who just had a new baby, congratulations if you're listening. She was talking about some issues she had with her car. I'm not going to get into details because it's personal, it's private. And from my understanding, what I gathered, she can't take care of the car for the inspection just yet because there's something with the suspension or what have you. And the money and stuff just isn't there. Maybe she doesn't know what she's going to do, this and that. And they have a new kid, and the last thing they need is to be pulled over all the time. And it got me thinking, and I explained to her some suggestions that I had. And after I talked her ear off for about a good 45 minutes, like I always do. Um, she said, you should do an episode on this topic, which is financial things, building a future, sort of. And I joked about it. I was like, well, yeah, but the whole point of my new podcast format is that after I talk about a subject, I play a song that I wrote and produced with my studio. And at the end, I close out with the song. Like, what am I going to do? Sing about finances? But I said, screw it. And I decided I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways because a lot of people need to know this information. Um, and no matter what walk of life you're in, whether you're in the hood, whether you're in the suburbs, whether you're well off, whether you're not well off, it's always good to know these things, and they just don't teach it. People get stuck in a financial rut. They're in debt. They never get ahead in life. And it's because nobody ever really teaches them how to actually succeed, what the secret of life success is. Everyone's always caught up in pop culture, what brand they're wearing, whether they have an iPhone or not. They're always caught up in this like superficial materialistic thing. Um, and I have a theory that poverty does exist, but um, to an extent, poverty exists when one person compares what they have to what somebody else has. And as an example, I was watching this Dracula show that was done by the BBC. It's like a 3-part miniseries show about Dracula in the future, but it's irrelevant. Either way, Dracula in the show, his ship sinks. He's in his coffin in the ocean, and he's underwater for many centuries. And he comes to shore, in modern times. And he's met on the beach by some organization that, was expecting him and is going to hunt him down. And he takes off and he ends up in this trailer park as the sun's starting to rise. And he goes in and he's Dracula. So he helps a couple people finish with their living, so to speak. And the lady that lives there, she's scared. And Dracula is just like walking around. He's looking at the refrigerator. He's flipping the light switch and stuff. And he goes, wow, is everyone in today's society rich? And she's like, dude, what are you talking about? I live in a trailer, dude. I am not rich. And he said something that has stuck with me to this day. He says, and granted, it's just a show and some writer came up with it, but they made a valid point. His response to her saying, I'm not rich, I live in a trailer park, was, look at this. You flip a switch, you have light. If you want to have a cold beverage, you just open up this box, the door on this box, and boom, you just have this perpetually cold beverage. If you just press this button on this thing here, that box over there lights up and you're seeing people from all over the world. He's referencing the TV. He goes, you're saying you're not rich, but you're living better than kings of the past. And it got me thinking, it's like, it's true. Like, what we consider poor and poverty today is nowhere near the poor and poverty of, like, let's say the 1700s, especially in America. Like, we take things for granted. We get complacent with stuff. Like, there's so many shelters. There's so many places to get food, showers, laundry. They've got Obama phones. They got healthcare plans. They got food stamps. Like, all this stuff for people that just didn't exist in the past. So poverty exists, but the level of poverty is based off of what you have to what somebody else has. I mean, you take Native Americans, in the 1400s and earlier and stuff. I mean, they lived in communities, teepees. I'm not too educated on Native American culture, but from my understanding, they were nomadic, a lot of them. They traveled around the plains. They lived in teepees. They hunted. They gathered, And you might have more well-to-do tribes than some other tribes. And there was, battles between them and stuff, sure. But for the most part, do you think a Native American community was like, oh, we're so poor? And they didn't have refrigerators. They had like basic medicine by using roots and herbs and stuff. If they weren't able to hunt or gather enough, they might starve or die throughout the winter. But it was just life. They didn't have phones, laptops, bicycles, public transportation. They didn't have any of this stuff. Peasants in the medieval times, same thing. People just didn't have all this stuff, but we have them now. So poverty and being poor is in a lot of ways is a state of mind. It's, are you happy with what you have, or do you desire what someone else has? But anyways, I digress. The point of this episode is to educate people on certain secrets of success that are just not taught in schools, which really should be. And I want to preface it by stating that the number one secret to securing your future, to securing your family's future, and to securing your retirement and being, not wealthy, but comfortable in life, and to make sure you have a stable, secure foundation in case of an emergency, is your credit score. That is the secret, especially in a country that's, based off of capitalism, and things like that. Your credit score is the secret to success in life. The sooner you start focusing on your credit score, the sooner you can be secure. You get evicted, lose your job, and you want to start a small business, do things on your own. Well, you're going to need money for that, and you don't have the capital for it. You're going to have to get a loan. With a crappy credit score, you ain't getting a loan. Your car breaks down, you still got to get the kids to school. You got to get to work somehow. You're a single parent raising two kids. What are you going to do if you don't have a good credit score? you're not going to get taken care of. If you're stuck in the hood or in a bad part of town and you want to get out of it as soon as possible, well, buying Jordans, iPhones, Impalas, jewelry, name brand clothes, and all that, that's not going to get you out of there. It's not. But you know what will? A good credit score. With a good credit score, you can get into better apartments, you can get a mortgage. Who knows what you can do? The credit score is the secret to success. Wealthy people will invest their money, sure, but they would rather invest other people's money. They take out loans. I mean, you take Elon Musk or Donald Trump or any of these wealthy people, they're investing their money, sure, but if they're doing a big project, they're going to take a loan out on that project so they don't have to get the capital from their own finances. And they'll make a smart investment. They'll pay back the loan with interest. Now they're making profit off of what they invested in. They've paid off their loan. They're using other people's money. And that's the number one secret, your credit score. So I'm actually going to go over a bunch of stuff here. And like I said, I am not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. Consult the financial advisor before making any significant investment. So what I told this friend of mine was what I did. Um, I got, I moved back from California. I really didn't have a penny to my name. I didn't have anything. I think my credit score was like 500. It was bad. Like I couldn't get a loan for a taco, let alone a car or a house or anything. So I did some research and made myself a plan. And what I'm going to go over is what I did. So that within a 1 year period, no, I think it was a 2 year period, I went from having a horrible credit score to having a credit score that was good enough to actually get a mortgage for a house. And it only took me 2 years. All right. So, first off, let's talk about your credit score. Um, like I said, your credit score is the secret to succeeding in life and securing a future. Okay. Now, your credit score is based off of several factors, and I'll list them right now. The first one is your payment history. It's actually the most important factor in your credit score. So basically, if you have any late payments, past due accounts, anything in collections, it all hurts your credit score. And by making on time payments, you can improve your credit score. So basically, always pay your debts. If you owe someone, be a Lannister, repay your debts. Okay. Then you have amounts owed, and that would be the total amount of debt you have compared to your available credit. Um, it's also known as your credit utilization ratio, and you want to keep your credit utilization ratio low. That can improve your score. And what this means is if you have a credit limit of, let's say, $500, don't ever use any more than 10% of it. If you have $100 credit limit, never use more than $10. Um, because credit card companies want you to use your credit, because if you don't pay it off, then you pay interest and they make money. They make more money. But places that give you money, that give you loans, that approve financing, they're looking for if you don't utilize your credit. They'll be like, wow, this person has $50,000 available to them in a credit line, but they never spend more than 20 bucks. It looks really responsible to them. So they're like, wow, if this guy could access 50,000, but he only ever uses 50 at a time, he's responsible. We can give him a loan. So that's what that is, amounts owed. Then you have your length of credit history. And that's how old is your oldest line of credit. So if you got a credit card when you were 19 years old, that's good if you are responsible with it, because that means by the time you're 30 or 40, like, I mean, you've had that thing for decades now. Having a long history with a credit line. So the length of your credit, how old is your oldest line of credit? Then there's new credit applications. So anytime you apply for new credit, or they do what's called a hard inquiry. So there's soft and hard inquiries. If you apply for something and they do a hard credit check, that will affect your credit score because it shows up that people were looking into your credit score. A soft credit check is just a basic, hey, what's your credit score kind of thing. Doesn't go into detail, and it doesn't necessarily hurt your credit score. Now, the reason your new credit application score matters is because it's assigned to lenders if there's fraud involved. For instance, if you've never checked anything for many years, and then suddenly within a 2-year period, um, 15 different companies did a credit check on you, they're like, well, what's this person up to? Why are they applying for so many stuff? It looks iffy. So it lowers your credit score. The next one is your credit mix. What types of credit do you have? Auto loans, mortgages, types of credit cards. You want a mix because if you have a mix, it shows the people that will lend you money that you can manage multiple types of debt. It's easy for the most part to manage a single line of credit, like a credit card. But if you've got a mortgage, a car loan, a credit card, multiple things going on, and you're sticking to it and you're responsible and you're paying it and you're doing the right thing, it looks good. Hey, this person's responsible. They have all these financial obligations and they're able to manage it. It looks good. And then other factors would be whether you've had a debt sent to a collection agency, if you've had a foreclosure on a home, or if you've ever filed a bankruptcy. So that being said, this is what I did when I wanted to get a house, but I had like a 500 credit score, which is horrible. What I did first is I applied for a Capital One platinum secured credit card. And for that, I think it's still going on, but it's a secured credit card, which means you have to put money down, and then your limit is based off of the company, whether it's like if you put $100 into your secured credit card, that means you have $100 credit limit. But some companies like Capital One, you give them $49, $99, or $200, but you get a higher credit limit than you secured it with. So I only gave Capital One $50, the $49 option, but I had a $200 credit limit. And the reason why that's good is because, it's a good start. It's not a lot of credit, but it's a good start. But they report, and every 6 months, they'll evaluate you and consider you for a higher limit. And eventually, they'll just take you off the secured. They'll refund your deposit. You'll get that money back, and now you're on an unsecured credit card. And I did that through Capital One. So it was the Capital One Platinum Secured Credit Card. The second thing I did is I went to JD Byrider, which is not necessarily a car dealership. People, will be like, oh, I paid more for the car than it was worth. Well, they're not necessarily a car dealership. They're a credit building and repairing place. And as long as you've never gone to them before, and as long as you can show some type of income, you're pretty much guaranteed a car. And with like very little money down, it'll be something you can afford. They don't do a credit check. It's based off of your income. They figure out how much you make per month. They kind of factor in your rent, bills, and expenses, and then they determine what your expendable income is. And then they tell you, which of the cars you're interested in will fit, your budget. And they help you out. But you're pretty much guaranteed a car that's no more than 5 years old, under 100,000 miles. It has been inspected and looked after. They take care of the license plate. Your insurance company will contact them, and they'll put on the plate. You can drive off the lot. At the time when I went through them, $5 oil changes, things like that. But I went to JD Byriders, and I only gave them like $200 down, and I drove off with a Pontiac G5. So Capital One Platinum Secured Credit Card. I got an auto loan from JD Byrider. And then when my credit score I saw went up a little bit, I got a Target credit card, which is a credit card that's only for Target. I can only use it at Target. The reason I did that was, remember I told you about credit mix. You want to mix of credit lines. So I had the Capital One card, I had the auto loan, and I had another one, which was the Target card. And store-based credit cards are easier to get for the most part than regular credit cards. And you can generally get a higher credit limit with them. And then I had Chime, the Chime Bank app, and I started utilizing the Chime Credit Builder part of it. Um, if you have any questions about any of, this stuff, look into it because I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what I did. I got those four things. I got a Capital One secured, platinum secured credit card. I got an auto loan from JD Byrider. I got a Target store credit card, and I started utilizing the Chime Credit Builder account. And within 2 years, I'm not going to tell you what my credit score was. It's private, but I went from like a 500 credit score, and within just under 2 years, I had a high enough credit score where I actually was approved for a mortgage for my house. Um, Now here's what you need to do. You need to be smart. It's not about how much you spend. It's about how little you spend. Just because you have access to it, do not use it. What you do is you buy a pack of batteries or a cup of coffee on the credit card. When the first bill comes in, you pay the minimum. When the next bill comes in, you pay the coffee off. Then you buy another coffee on the credit card, and then you repeat. You just buy a cup of coffee. It doesn't matter how much you spent. They don't care if you spent $200, whatever. It's about how little you spend, but do you pay it back? So just use the credit card just to get a cup of coffee. Pay the minimum on the first bill, pay it off on the next one. The next one is to stop caring what other people think. Live within your means. You don't have to have Jordans. You don't have to have the gold chains. You don't have to have all this stuff. You don't. That's just to impress other people. You don't need it. Who cares if it's name brand? Only superficial care if you have name brand stuff. And if you care that you have a name brand stuff, well, that's your deal. If you can't live within your means and you can't afford it, let's say you're buying all that stuff and you can't afford rent and all that, well, that's your fault. Maybe if you didn't buy the iPhone brand new. Maybe if you didn't buy the several $100 Jordans. Maybe if you bought a Camry instead of like a WRX, Stop caring what other people think and stop trying to impress people. Live within your means. If you're not a millionaire, don't live like a millionaire. The other thing is pay off your debts before pleasure. If you owe money, pay the debt before you get the PS5. Pay your debt first. Once you're debt free, then you can start thinking about your pleasure stuff. All right. Don't buy anything unless you have the money for it. If you want to buy a PS5 for $600 or whatever they cost, don't buy it unless you have the $600. Preferably, don't buy it until you can afford two of them. Save up for it and save up for that item that you want outside of your regular budgeting. Don't buy name brand. Buy used phones. Take care of your stuff. Make it last. Don't want things because others have them or because you want to appear cool. All right? Why do you have to have name brand stuff? Why buy the name brand soda and the name brand chips and the name brand clothes? Like, who cares? If people make fun of you for buying, Payless shoes, well, that's their problem. And if you care what they think, well, you got issues. I can't help you, you know? The next thing you want to do is you want to create a budget. You're going to total your essentials. So, how much is your rent? How much is your car payment? How much is your phone bill? How much is your insurance? Like all the stuff that you have to pay each month. Total that up. Know what that amount is. Okay. Now, when you get your paycheck each week, there are certain things you're going to do right at the start. And if you can coordinate it with your bank and your job so that it automatically happens, that's even better. And here's what you're going to do. When your check comes in, you're going to put 10% immediately into a savings account. 10% right off the bat. The next thing you're going to do is put 4% into an IRA. Maybe you have some type of retirement plan with your job. Otherwise, Charles Schwab is a good pick. But you're going to put 4% immediately into an IRA, which is for your retirement. If you think you're going to be in a higher tax bracket when you retire, pick a Roth IRA. If you think you're going to be in the same tax bracket or a lower tax bracket when you retire, pick a traditional IRA. But immediately 4% into an IRA, and you never touch that. And then lastly, you're going to put 4% into a diverse investment account. Maybe get a money management and an investment account with Fidelity. But basically that 4% is going to be used for like investing in the S&P 500, certain currencies, a diverse thing. Don't just go after individual stocks like, oh, I like Disney, so I'm going to invest in that. I like Apple, I'm going to invest in that. Talk to a financial advisor, but generally you want to diversify your investments. And I know you've probably heard that. Diversify your investments. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. I personally went with a little in currency, a little in the S&P 500, things like that. Like I said, if you think you're going to be in a higher tax bracket when you retire, invest in a Roth IRA. If you think you're going to be in the same or lower tax bracket when you retire, maybe choose a traditional IRA. You don't have to know what that is right now. Do the research yourself. And like I said, Charles Schwab is a good place to start, but definitely compare other IRA options. Sometimes with your job, you can set up and they take a certain percent that you tell them, and they automatically will take that out of your paycheck and put it in that. They usually have retirement things that you can do, 401ks, you know what I mean? And a lot of jobs will match a certain percentage. So if maybe get a 401k through your job or get an IRA through Charles Schwab. But either way, when you get your paycheck each week, 10% immediately into savings, and you don't touch that savings. 4% into an IRA and 4% into an investment type thing, like the S&P 500, some currency options or whatever. Like I said, Fidelity money management investment accounts are good. That's what I use. Money that I'm preparing to invest, I keep in the money management account because as it's sitting there, it's collecting interest. So that's good. So let's just say you stick to this plan. You figure out how much you need to spend a month for rent, bills, and all that. You figure out what your total is, okay? Because you need to do a budget. So let's just say, I'm just going to use a random number here. Let's just say you make $500 a week, minus like after taxes, okay? $50 should immediately go into your savings account. $20 should immediately go into your retirement account. And another $20 should immediately go into a diverse investment account of some sort, which means that out of the $500, 50, 60, 70, 80, $90, hell, round it up. Always round up when it comes to savings, So out of that 500, 100 immediately goes into securing your future, your children's future, your retirement. It immediately goes into that. Now, yeah, it means you're going to have less money to spend on things you want and want to do. But that's the point. You shouldn't be focusing on that right now. Who cares if you have a PS5 and you get the latest iPhone and all that? People that are not going to do well in life make those type of decisions. If you can't afford it, if you're living on food stamps, Section 8 housing, you got a couple kids, you're renting an apartment, and all that. If you're driving around in a WRX, you've got an iPhone and, a PS5, big screen TV and all that, that means you've been doing things wrong. And you're going to be stuck in the same situation years from now that you're in right now. The whole point is to focus, make the smart decisions. Because otherwise, when you're in financial ruin later on, you're in debt or you're stuck in a rut and you can't get out of it, guess what? It was because of the choices that you made. You didn't plan for the future. And now, well, if you made your bed, now you got to lie in it. So if you stick to this plan, and let's just say it's like 500 a week you get that you can deal with, after 20 years, that would be $52,000 in your savings, not including any interest gains. That's also $20,000 sitting in an IRA, not including any gains. And that's another 20 to 100,000 in investments if your investments were successful, you know, which means at the end of 20 years, if you just stick to this plan where you just immediately put 10 into savings, 20 into your retirement, and 20 into investments, and let's say it's deducted automatically out of your paycheck when you receive it, it just goes into those accounts automatically, which means you don't even have to think about it. If you do that for 20 years with 500 a week, and you do the same math, the 10%, the 4%, and the 4%, after 20 years with no effort, you weren't even thinking about it. You've got $100,000 to $200,000 right there for retirement. Right there, you know? Um, the last thing I would suggest is a nest egg. And when I mean a nest egg, I mean a safety net nest egg, meaning add up all your bills, car payment, rent, utilities, phone bill, all the stuff that you absolutely must pay each month to survive. Try to save up outside of this budget. Try to save up 3 months of that. So let's just say your monthly expenses are, I don't know, let's just say $1,500. You want to make sure that you have $4,500 off to the side as a safety net. The reason is because let's say you lose your job. Well, you have a 3-month safety net. You know for a fact that sitting off to the side, you have 3 months of rent, 3 months of insurance, 3 months of car payments, 3 months of phone bill, 3 months of all your essentials that you have to pay is already sitting there, which means you have 3 months to come up with a plan, 3 months to find a new job. Well, preferably a month. Always do things as quick as you can. But at least you have a 3-month safety net where you don't have to worry for at least the first month. Oh, crap. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to do all this stuff? Because you were smart enough to save up the $3,000, the 3-month safety net and never touch it. Don't touch your savings unless you have to. If you want to send your kids to college, set up a separate account, you know? But yeah, so I'll just do a quick rundown again. Remember, the secret to success in life is securing your future and securing your family's future is your credit score. That is the secret to all wealthy people. That's the secret to all successful people. Your credit score is key. Your credit score is based off your payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you have any past due accounts? Do collection agencies have your debts now? Amounts owed. How much do you owe? How much do you spend compared to how much you have access to? Do you have a $5,000 credit limit and you use like 90% of it, or do you just use like 3% of it? How old is your oldest credit line? And how many people have looked into your credit and run a credit check on you in the last 2 years? And then lastly, well, not last but not least, your credit mix. How many varieties of credit line do you have? So like what I did is I got the Capital One Platinum Secured Credit Card. I gave a $50 secured down payment, but I got a $200 credit limit. I went to JD Byrider, and I was able to get a moderately new car in great condition for minimum payment down, no credit check, and every month they reported to the credit bureaus, and by the end of 4 years, I was able to pay off the car, and my credit score was higher. And then I got a Target store credit card, which gave me a variety of credit lines. And then I utilized the Chime Bank credit builder account. Then I was smart. Um, I didn't utilize my credit line. I would buy a cup of coffee or a pack of batteries or something. The first bill, I would pay the minimum. The second bill, I paid the coffee off. And then I would go right to Dunkin' Donuts and buy another coffee. Next bill, pay the minimum. Bill after that, pay the coffee off, buy a new coffee, repeat. It's not about how much you spend, it's do you pay on time. Um, Second thing was I tried to focus on paying off all existing debt before I decided to buy things for myself, like a camera or whatever. If I owed money, I paid that off first. Then I didn't buy anything unless I had money for it. When I wanted a 360 camera for like $500, I didn't buy it until I had $1,000. It wasn't until I could afford two of them that I bought the one of them. And the money I saved up for it, I did outside of my normal budgeting. I didn't take it out of my savings. I didn't take it out of, the money for the IRA and the investments. I specifically put a certain amount off to the side each week until I had enough money to pay for two cameras. Then I bought the 360 camera and I put the remaining money into my savings. I didn't buy name brand stuff. I bought used phones from Swappa. I took care of my stuff so I wouldn't have to replace it. I stopped not wanting what others had. If they had, the really high end Galaxy phone, I just went with a normal mid range Android phone. I didn't care what other people thought, you know. And then I had a 401k through my job. So, and I used the Fidelity Management. So that's all I did is I just got a JD Byrider auto loan. I got a platinum secured credit card. I got a Target card, and I utilized the Chime Credit Builder. And within less than 2 years, I went from a 500 credit score to a credit score that was good enough to get me a mortgage for the house I wanted to get. Now, like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. Before you make any investment, you should always consult an actual licensed, certified, financial advisor. But this is what I did, and this is what they don't teach you in school. Everyone in school, they're always focused on whether they have, the fresh new drip, whether they look smooth enough. They're trying to get the girls, and the girls are trying to impress the guys, and everyone's got to have the name brand stuff. They'll pick on the kids that don't have the cool stuff, and everyone's always they're not making the right decisions, and schools don't teach you this. So then you end up with generation after generation where people aren't getting out of debt. They're just getting deeper into debt, or they're stuck in a rut. They're forever living, in a bad part of town. They can't get out of it. They can't rise above because, well, they weren't taught the secret to success. And the secret to success is your credit score. It's also making smart decisions. Focus on what you need, not on what you want. And lastly, don't care what other people think. You don't have to impress anybody. If you want to drive the WRX and have the crisp, flat brimmed hat and the tight at the ankles, low waist riding, skinny jeans and the shades and, the newest iPhone and the PS5 for you to, play. You have the Netflix, you have the Hulu, and you have Disney Plus. You got all the good stuff, but you're living in some crap ass apartment. Well, I have no respect for you because you clearly care about your image, which is fine in a way, but you're never going to go on in life. You're not. You're going to be stuck there. And then when things do go wrong, you're going to blame other people. You're going to be like, I got evicted because they raised my rent and I couldn't afford the rent and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, you're the one driving the WRX. You're the one that's got the Jordans on. You're the one with the gold chains. You're the one, that's, always got to have the weed. When the friends come over, you're the one that has the weed. You're the one that drinks the beer. You have vices. You spend your money on all this stuff to impress the ladies and to look cool or to get the clicks and likes on social media. Those were your choices. If you are living outside of your means, you're never going to make it. You have to live within your means. And just because somebody else has something doesn't mean you're entitled to it. Doesn't mean you deserve to have that too. You got people, oh man, you can't get by in life. Everyone has these nice phones and I don't have a nice phone. You just need a phone that works. You don't need to have the nicest shoes. You just need shoes that last. You don't need to have name brand clothes. You just need to have something to cover your naked body. That's it. If you're superficial, materialistic, man, you see all those influencers. Yeah, 90% of them, it's fake. That's not even really their life. They're renting those fancy cars and they're posing in front of it. I've seen it happen. Half the rappers and these people, these sports, the athletes and stuff that have all this crazy nice stuff, guess what? That's all on loan. They either got, the jewelry they bought on credit and so they still owe for the jewelry, or they owe for the car still, they owe for the mansion still. And then when they leave sports and they retire from the sports within like a couple years, they're bankrupt. They're broke. They lost everything. Now, if they had been smart, saved that money while they were able to make several million a year, and saved it instead, well, they'd be better off. But you hear it all the time, all these rappers and athletes and stuff that make these millions, and suddenly they're not cool anymore. They're not popular anymore. They're not selling out concerts anymore. They're not filling seats in the stadiums anymore. They have to retire because, they hurt their knee while they were playing. But because they bought the mansion, the cars, and the jewelry and all that, well, they're broke now. They were cool at first. Oh, look at me, look at me. But now they're being laughed at. You got, I don't want to bring up names because, everyone's their own thing. But you got, some artists that, they're a joke now. They're a joke. They're broke. They don't got a penny to their name because they lived the high life for all those years. And then when they lost their talent or they said that one thing and society, quote, canceled them, now they're screaming, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Well, you should have been smarter with your money, And those of you that are losing hope and you're like, oh man, I'm, forever stuck in this bad part of town, in this bad city. I'm never going to get up. I'm never going to rise out. You can. You can. You just have to make sacrifices. You have to stop caring what other people think. You have to stop trying to impress other people. You have to start making the right, smart decisions. Make smart decisions and you will succeed. You can get out of whatever rut you're in. And you can make sure that you're prepared in case you get into another rut. Build up that safety net. That way, if you get into another rut, hey, you're good to go for 3 months. Start saving up for your retirement now. That way, you can stop working when you're 65 and you can retire. You don't have to keep working because you've already thought about that. You already have savings. Make smart decisions. Stop caring what other people think. Just focus on what's best for you and best for your family. And don't forget, your credit score is the secret. You could be a nobody, an absolute nobody, not have too much money in the bank, But if you got like an 800 credit score, you could be like a 22-year-old kid fresh out of college, not a penny to your name, want to start your own business, and you've got an 800 credit score. You have more opportunities than some 40-year-old that has a, let's say a 500 credit score and might have 60,000 in the bank, but he's not going anywhere. Like, no one's going to loan him money. Your credit score is the secret to success. Your credit score and making smart decisions. Well, anyways, I think I've babbled on long enough. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just talking from my own personal experience, and trying to motivate you, to make better decisions in life and how to prepare and secure a future for yourself and your family. And if you are my friend from Extra Mart over there in Sturbridge, you know who you are. Keep your head up. Stay strong. Congratulations on the kid. Tell your man I said what up. And I hope this information helped you. And I hope this information helped other people too. With that, I'm going to wrap up this episode. It's been a long one. Usually I only try to do a half hour. This one's going on close to an hour, I think. And we're going to end this episode with a song that I wrote and was produced by my studio, Virtualscape Studio. It's called Sowing the Seeds. And yeah, thanks again. If you are listening to this, I really, really appreciate it. Enjoy this song called Sowing the Seeds, and we'll see you next time. This has been Some Guy's Podcast. I am your host, Some Guy Named Guy. Have a good night.
Beneath the morning sun, with pennies in my name, building up the stepping stones, not looking for the fame. Lay down the aged wisdom, lines upon my face. In every choice, a ripple, every coin a trace. Planting seeds, watching them grow in the soil of what we know. Building dreams with every dime. In the quiet moments, find the time. Credit rising like the dawn, through a measured plan. Every loan repaid and gone, a careful, steady hand. In the ledger of my life, the numbers softly sing, living by the budget's code. Hear the cash bells ring. Planting seeds, watching them grow in the soil of what we know. Building dreams with every dime. In the quiet moments, find the time. Whispers of the future, echoes of the past. Navigating currents, our sails are tightened fast. Living small in gratitude, within our means we find. In the careful whispers, peace of mind. Time will tell the tale we write, in numbers and in deeds. In the garden of our lives, we're sowing all the seeds. With every modest purchase, we carve out our own way. In the humble choices, love will stay. Planting seeds, watching them grow in the soil of what we know. Building dreams with every dime.